How's everybody doing? I normally take my shoes off because it grounds me. It's a lovely thing to do. Relax, slide around. My work focuses on arts, culture, tech, sustainability, education, and much, much more. But I'm here to talk about donuts. Yeah? Yes, donuts. I'm not kidding. But there's another donut that we should all know about. Right? Not these types, but donuts are the center of everything that we want to talk about today. Right? Although these aren't the kind. They're yummy, but they're uninteresting. It's really this donut that's really important. I don't know if anybody knows this diagram or part of it, but it's represented by the British economist Kate Raworth. She calls it the donut economy, or it's a diagram of the donut economy. And what this does in a nutshell, it sort of explains and demonstrates the existing methods of looking at our economic outlook that are incorrect. And as you can see, there's this arrow that's sticking right out of it called overshoot and shortfall. And in principle, the whole idea is that we need to work ourselves and balance ourselves in the center, the safe area, for humanity. And what's happening is that we're really overshooting into an area of overutilizing our resources, polluting, ozone depletion, climate change, all kinds of things. But then we also have this shortfall that comes into the center area that we're basically not focusing our attention on education and health and food, aspects of hunger, sense of resilience. And these are all important things to understand. But to make it easier, there's another donut that we need to understand. And it's really the 17 goals of sustainable development, right, by the UN. And it really demonstrates and articulates what we need to tackle about the issues of humanity today, right? We're like zero hunger, affordable clean energy, education for all, industry innovation and infrastructure, good health and well-being, to name a few. But these aren't just, icons with pretty colors on them. They really are trying to establish a methodology, a philosophy that we all need to understand as just humans, but also designers, right? And taking that responsibility forward, right? So it allows designers really to be ultra creative, hyper conceptual, and incredibly expressive. And a lot of people have never seen these before. I mean, I don't know why, right? I'm not going to say who understands this or who's seen this before right now, but it allows us to be really visionary and also potentially even original with our work. So the idea of innovation really comes out of left field. This is Copenhagen in Copenhagen, designed by Bjarke Ingels, of big architects. And it basically is a combination of a power station and a ski slope, right? Now that's pretty unconventional. But the interesting thing about this is that this power station really takes 440,000 tons of waste a year and produces energy for over 160,000 homes, right? The idea of the slope is also a very interesting thing. It's not only there to ski down, but it's also there to actually reduce the CO2 emissions, right? So the whole idea of innovation is all encrusted in one, and that's really, really important, right? And the fact of the matter is that, okay, you can say that this is architecture, it's also design, but how does this work in a smaller scale, whether it be within graphic design or even packaging, perhaps, right? So that's what we're here to talk about today as well, not only donuts, but two projects that I and my team work together. And really, we're going to focus on sustainable goals. Number 3 and number 9, good healthcare and well-being. And number 9 is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. The client's name was called Gush, or is called Gush. They're a really young Singaporean company that created a paint that cleans the air. And you're probably saying, what? How's that possible? Well, the basic aspect of this is that 90% of our time is spent inside, whether it's at home, whether it's in a mall, whether it's in a school or an office, and that's not good. We're exposed to the idea of indoor pollutants, right? VOCs, viruses, bacteria, allergens, mold, all chemical particles. All these things are really, really hurting us, and it's a common reason for illnesses, low productivity, reduction in emotional aspects of who we are and emotional well-being, and that's problematic. And so the whole idea is coming up with a purifying paint is very important. But how do you then create a message behind that and a position behind that and visuals behind that and packaging behind that that also emphasizes the prospects of being future forward, innovative, and unconventional? And so we worked with Gush to speak not just only towards the idea that this is a paint, but the aspects that we're going beyond the surface, right? One of the problems that we have in the consumer world is that we are more about surface mentality, and we needed to go beyond the surface. How can we do that? How can we actually change the idea of consumers' minds through committing the aspects of truth and changing perceptions of industry, right? And thus embracing science. And then one aspect here is to be sort of communal, right? Look at this as a well-being as plural rather than singular, right? Look at it from the prospects of each and every particle being one person, but all particles together creates that sense of community, and we will fight the issues at hand. And so that was the premise. But it doesn't stop there. This is a can of paint from 1877, patented by Sherwin-Williams, right? They patented the paint can, literally, right? Now, it hasn't changed in all that time, and we still have spillages. We still have all kinds of things that basically you can't open it, you can't close it. These are problematic, right? How comes we haven't fixed that particular issue? What's going on here? That is the challenge. And so we needed to look closer at that specific area. And as we did, our role is really to think about it from a functional, unconventional way. That sensibility is really, really important. And how can we create something which is really transformative? And so which we did. And we sort of applied that to these particular principles, to redesigning and reapplying that ideology onto this particular packaging and the visual design of it. It's recyclable, of course, it's fully sustainable materials, the whole idea of it just opening up and pouring out the paint and using it as the tray, right? Why didn't Sherwin-Williams bloody well do that? I have no clue. Everybody is fixated on the conventional, right? We're in a time where we either want to step back into time, right? Not going to name any names there, right? But the fact of the matter of going forward, we need to look at everything, not just from a point of view of like, oh, it's the future, it needs to look cool. It needs to function, but also feel the experience of being unconventional, being uncomfortable with that particular aspect. And so here's a little video of it sort of unpacking itself. Right? So I'm going to leave you on this particular note about this particular project, that in regards to the messaging, we also wanted them to have a credo, a sense of a belief mechanism. And it's really important for companies such as this to have their own mission statements, okay, but also this inner understanding of where they need to go. Let's act now to ensure for tomorrow. Let's go beyond the surface together, right? Let's create a world we can gush about. And that is really important, because normally we're moving towards what is cliche, predictable, common, traditional, unoriginal, overused, and formulaic. And we cannot afford to do that anymore. We need to move away from those types of credos into these types of credos. That is important. All right, on to my second project that deals with number 4 on the list of the Sustainable Development Goals, and number 3 as well. So number 4 is the quality of education for all, and number 3 is good healthcare and well-being, right? And so everybody remembers the year 2020. It was really major paradigm shift in regards to where we are. You know, what did we learn from this time of isolation? A few years before the pandemic, I was asked by an amazing company called Gradient Learning. We actually renamed them Gradient Learning. They were part of the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative of Education to redesign who they were, defining their positioning, their overarching value propositions, their visual design. And they are very much focusing their attention on children, right? On students. They have one-to-one coaching methods. They have a large curriculum for teachers. And they also help students grow by building skills like kindness, gratitude, curiosity, and resilience. And resilience is part of one of those sustainable goals. It actually is an important factor for students today. What I'm going to show you right now is a diagram from the Financial Times, a very recent diagram, actually designed in Flourish. I loved using this. It was fantastic. And what they've done is they compiled a global study on how students are struggling to concentrate and the decline in verbal and numerical reasoning in higher income countries like the US, right? And so this is a diagram that shows teenage scores and reasoning and problem solving for those particular test scores for science, reading, and math. And as you can see, in 2020, it dropped off a rock, right? So this is really problematic, and this is global. And so you're looking at US, you're looking at Europe, and other high-income countries around the world. This is massively problematic. But not only that, adults, us, our wonderful selves, are also falling down as well. It's not only teenagers. And this is also problematic. Our literacy skills and aspects of rationale are falling. Adult numeracy is falling. We're dumb as F, let's put it that way, right? Or we're going to become dumb as F anyway, right? And so why is this happening? It's an infinite flood of content that we are provided with on a day-to-day basis, right? And we're sort of moving ourselves into this sort of self-directed behavior to passive consumption, right? And the idea of content and context switching. That's what's happening. We can't focus. We can't have a proper conversation. This is problematic for us, right? This is our shortfall, part of our shortfall, and we have to understand that. And so I got a call from the CMO at Gradient Learning during the pandemic. I was at my son's soccer match, and he said, "Can you make a game?" And I said, "Yes." And I just wanted to know more. Why does he want to make a game? Well, gamification, in principle, is a really amazing way to actually have the sense of interaction for students and parents and teachers. How many of you have kids? Well, oh, yeah, a fair amount of you, right? Okay, so the major problem here is when that kid comes home, right, and you say, "Hi, love, how was today?" And they're like, "It was all right." Right? You've heard that a lot, right? And so, what did you learn? Nothing. So you're basically, that's your conversation for the rest of the day. That's not good, is it? And also, they are afflicted with this particular issue of context switching, right? So they really can't focus on anything. So the idea of this game is the aspects of conversation, communication, and revealing the new, right, about oneself, right? To develop that muscle is really important, right? And gamification is it. And this game is called Banterful. And one moment, I actually have one right here, right? We're actually selling these, we're selling these here at Canva. And I'll tell you how it works in a moment. So we also need to understand that that sense of concentration is the focus on the responsible, social, emotional, academic, and well-being of young people. That's what we have to do today, right? It's seriously important and imperative that we succeed, or we will have a shortfall. So we got to work. My team and I got to work thinking about it, trying to analyze and compare existing games, developing different games, testing those games, developing those games, testing those games, and until we sort of determined a specific output that really worked. And so what is this game like to play? So I'm going to tell you how it is. So Banterful can be played with 2 to 6 players, about 30 minutes or up if you wanted to. There's over 500 thoughtful cards. Some are questions, some are commands. There's one plaque that's a judge plaque. There's one wild die, and there's one prize box, right? And so we need to peep into here a little bit, and we're going to start with the judge. So when you open the box, you see the judge sign. So whoever's the oldest gets to be the judge, of course, the wisest, the better, of course, And so with that, you start the game. And you pick 3 questions from the shuffled cards, and what basically happens is there are many questions in those shuffle cards, but these are all different. They all are connected to the aspects that I started talking about, that are interconnected to the well-being of that particular person. The idea of gratitude, or purpose, or kindness, or tenacity, or decision-making, they're all there. So you're probably saying to yourself, okay, so this might be like Cards Against Humanity. To a certain degree, no, and to a certain degree, yes. But the principal factor is there's a twist. It's unpredictable what you're going to see. And so the unpredictable element is this idea of a die. And you roll the die, and it's called a wild die, to see what you have to do. Once it lands on one of the colors, you have to pick from one of these cards based on the color. And it has the twist, the rule, the closing, and the challenge. And the twist is basically, jump on 1 foot or something. The rule is a particular command in regards to something that you cannot say within the discussion itself. And closing does the same thing, or the sense of challenge as well. And so what basically happens is that there's a rule set to it. This is where you gain the points, right? You can gain points for doing the right thing, and you can lose points from doing the wrong thing. And so it keeps the game going, right? And so once you're in the game, the conversation starts to build, And it's an amazing game to actually have. It's very, very simple. Something that doesn't need the aspects of technology, right, to prove itself. It is the sense of being unconventional that does that, that aligns itself within the aspects of the Sustainable Development Goals, right? At the end of the game, you get a winner, and that winner gets a prize, and that prize is a little badge that you can actually pin to yourself. Now imagine a kid doing that, being the winner, and then the next time you play the game, they start the game process over again next time. So let's just take a pause to digest. What we've sort of seen are two projects that focus on the aspects of innovation, right? There are different challenges that are ahead. But the idea of innovation goes hand in hand with responsibility, right? So it's dynamic, it's transformational, and it's playful, right? And so one of the factors of that is, how does it gain impact? We're all asking ourselves, how do you do that? How do you gain the sense of impact? Is it through the measurement of KPIs, key performance indexes, to measure the aspects of impact? To a certain degree, that can be the case in point, but there are other ways. And I had really wanted to think about this a little bit more in regards to, well, how can we measure impact slightly differently? Well, let's turn it into an acronym, right? Let's look at that. Let's focus on the idea of impact, right? So if you can't remember how to develop an impact, you just make it out of the word. You create imagination, magic, playfulness or adventure, curiosity, twists and turns. That's for Banterful. Integrity, mindfulness, purpose, accountability, commitment, transparency. These are things that you want to see in this particular project, right? So the whole idea that impact is what you provide it, right? It's not just about the measurement of an analytical thing on a computer. The idea of inquiry, mentorship, perspective, awareness, critical thinking, teaching. So you apply these specific things. It's really important that you do this. From a sustainable goals point of view, innovation, measurability, planet-centered, accountability, community, transformation. Right? Impact's an amazing word. So why don't we do that? So I'm going to end on this. The donut. I know not everybody likes donuts. I like donuts, right? I don't really show it so much, but I love donuts. But as a creative, imagine this. Take a bite, or two or three, right? And once you do, you'll find that the taste is really balanced. It's innovative in its flavor. There are no additives or preservatives. Something that you can sink your teeth into, right? And the aftertaste leaves you wanting more. That's this type of donut. That's the unconventional donut. That's where we need to move in. That's the aspect of our responsibility for tomorrow. And I'll leave you with that. Thank you.